I will call to order our Board of Commissioners regular meeting for November 16th, 7 o'clock. If we can have those at headquarters, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Commissioner Teoflack. Do I have a second on the motion? Commissioner Metter. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to approval of our consent agenda, we have items 4A, B, and C. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Lawrence. Do I have a second? Commissioner Burnett. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Chan?
So, aye.
Aye, all right. Motion carries. Moving on to approval of our meeting minutes for October 12th and October 19th work session and regular session meetings. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? I'll motion. Do you have a second on the motion? Commissioner Metter? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on to public comment. If anybody wishing to make public comment not for our public hearings, I have a few people on the attendee side, please use the raise your hand function and be recognized. One more second. Not seeing any, Ms. Blankenship, any requests?
No.
All right. Moving on to item number 7, our public hearings. We'll start with public hearing 7A, or redistricting, with Ms. Blankenship, Mr. Schweitzer from Sammamish Data Systems. Melissa?
Well, this item is, so I'm sorry, you opened the hearing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions on the materials that were provided? I did invite Mr. Schweitzer to attend to provide an overview if necessary. Do you feel it would be necessary to provide any other information on the materials that were presented?
Are there any questions from commissioners and or the public regarding the redistricting maps that are being presented this evening? If anybody from the public wishes to make a comment or ask a question, you can use the raise your hand function. All right. Not seeing any requests for comment from the public or commissioners. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for item 7A on our redistricting. Move on to our public hearing, call open our public hearing for item 7B, our 2022 budget with Director Younglove.
Good evening. Tonight's public hearing is an opportunity for the public to make comment on the 2022 budget. We began presenting information to the board on August 17th, and I believe I counted 9 meetings since then that we provided information on the on the RFA's funds, as well as strategic outlook, levy options, decision packages, a number of items, a lot of discussion to get us here tonight. So it's an opportunity if the public wants to make comment on any of the information we've presented so far.
All right, thank you. Any commissioners or public wishing to make a comment on our 2022 budget? in this public hearing? Please use the raise your hand function for the public or raise your hand for the commissioners. I'm not seeing any requests for comment. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing for item 7B, our 2022 budget. And we'll move on to item 8A, our unfinished business redistricting map for approval with Ms. Blankenship and Mr. Schweitzer.
If there's approval of the redistricting maps that have been presented by Mr. Schweitzer to the board, both phase 1, phase 2, with slight adjustments that were made in phase 2, we would like to request the board's approval of the redistricting maps based on the census.
Commissioner Metter?
Yeah, I make that motion that we approve the redrawn maps that we have, and so I feel comfortable with them. So.
Great. Do we have a second on that motion? Commissioner Chan? Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Kinney?
Thank you. And I want to thank Ms. Blankenship and Mr. Schweitzer for their work on the redistricting. I think the process worked out well to accommodate the 2020 census data and updating the maps. So thank you for your good work on that. I think it turned out well. And I'm pleased with the process and the outcome, the result in the maps. So thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 8B, our 2022 budget and resolutions for adoption. Chief Hovis, Director Younglove, and Chief Eastman.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. Kathleen just mentioned we've had 9 meetings about the budget. In your packet, the agenda bill is listed on page 67. The information goes through page 78. Director Younglove has also emailed to the Commission the draft 2022 budget. Staff is asking for approval of the associated resolutions and certification within the packet. And with that, we'd be willing to answer any questions that are asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments from the Commission? Commissioner Chan. You're on mute, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just want to make sure that the 5-year outlook still remain the same. That means in 2 years' time, we will be under the target, the general fund, and also in 4 years in 2026, the bank balance will be in deficit. Is that correct?
I believe the deficit in 2026 was approximately 23 million.
23 million deficit. Okay. So in the bank balance will be that amount. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Kinney?
Thank you. Ms. Younglove, I wanted to check it. It appeared that the budget document that you sent out today, I think this afternoon, that long document, it appeared that the Verdant grant for next year was not included. The budget reflected there in the long program budgets was sorry, just getting to the number, the $708,000 for what I guess I would call the status quo budget to maintain the 3 community paramedics at this time. I just want to confirm, is that correct?
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? And as I understand it, we need to take each of the items individually within the budget. So if there's no further questions or comments, we can move forward and go through each one in order. I believe we have a total of, is it 6 items we need to, is it 6 or 5 items?
It's 6 resolutions
Okay.
that the board will move adoption of, and then the levy certification is just moved that the chair be authorized to sign the certification.
Okay. So moving through in the packet, do we have anybody who wishes to make a motion on resolution 111-62021-14?
Can you point out the pages?
I believe they're page 68, correct? Is that correct? Or maybe it's...
All right, it's page 69.
69. Sorry, it was overprinted on my copy. Do we have a motion to approve that resolution on page 69? Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, I make a motion to approve that. What was the number again?
111-62021-14.
That's what I thought. Okay, that motion.
Do we have a second on the motion? Commissioner Kenny. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Can I suggest that maybe, Chair, that you initiate the motion, and I suppose somebody can second, but I don't have a hard copy in front of me, but I've reviewed things, and so it would be easier than going through each and trying to get a person to make a motion, if you will.
Okay.
So, if that's all right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
So that motion carries. Second item is page 71, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Younglove? It's the -15.
Sorry, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I motion to approve ordinance slash resolution number 111-62021-15, which is the increase in the 1% from the previous year.
The EMS levy resolution.
Correct. Is there a second on that motion? Commissioner Lawrence? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Chair, I'm sorry, who was the,
Second was Commissioner Lawrence.
Lawrence, thank you.
Yep. Moving on to item 3, our South Snohomish County Regional Fire Rescue and Regional Fire Authority Resolution 111-62021-16, which is the resolution to allocate property taxes to fund accounts for fiscal year 2022. I'll make that motion. Did somebody mute me? Somehow I got muted. So did anybody hear that? Okay, it went mute for some odd reason. Do we have a second on that motion? Commissioner Metter? Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, unfortunately, I won't know on this because I just want to emphasizing the staff have worked very hard, and I appreciate the chief has reducing a lot of the expenses. And I appreciate chief come up with the 21st century service, but unfortunately, we did not talk about that amount. I think the question is that whether we should build infrastructure first and then inviting the other city come in, or should we wait until the city come in? So I was supporting the later part that let the city comes in and then we build infrastructure. And I think I want to apologize to staff. I think the board that you guys did not give you a good directions. Where do we go? We did not have the early April workshop, and then we don't have the retreat. And we allow you to talk about the whole thing until September 14. Then we realized that the deficit spending and all that. And by that time, even we're trying to work out some number, but it's not. So, so I just that means we need to talk, I think staff and I talk about in January when we got to resolve the next 4 years, how we're gonna do it. So I will vote no for this budget.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Commissioner Chan in the negative. Moving on to item 4, South Snohomish County Fire and Regional Rescue Regional Fire Authority Resolution 111-62021-13. The resolution authorizing a cost of living increase for the non-represented non-contract employees for year 2022. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second on that motion? Commissioner Kenny? Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Chan?
I support this because it is cost of living and everything else, but we still need to do a more decent comparison in 2022 to really get the real market rate is for our staff, that non-union.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And I'll make a motion to approve South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue Regional Fire Authority Resolution 111-62021-17, resolution to adopt fund accounts for fiscal 2022. Is there a second on that motion? Commissioner Burnett. Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Kenny.
Thank you. I move to amend the motion to reduce the general fund EMS CRP budget by 1/3, $236,140, leaving $472,280 in that sub-budget, and stop subsidizing service to the contract cities of Edmonds, Matlack Terrace, and Briar.
Is there a second on that amended motion? Commissioner Lawrence, any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Kenny.
From our discussion last week, the new verdict grant is held in abeyance for approximately 2 months into January for the chief to do some work on it. But this deals with the $708,000 in the current budget. I'm sorry, the budget for 2022, which we will be picking up the full amount of the current status quo community resource paramedic program, and will be fully subsidizing the approximately 1/3 of that program that serves the contract cities, that they are getting that for free. And South County Fire residents are subsidizing them with their tax dollars. So this would reduce that program by 1/3 and reduce that service to the contract cities, unless they're going to pay, and focus South County Fire tax resources in the community resource paramedic program on South County Fire. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Chan?
Boy, it's difficult to go against Commissioner Kenny. I'm in the school that's thinking about we should not be delineating, really get careful what is paid and not what's paid, because eventually our job is to bring in all the city to the RFA. But I think I would like the chief to really discuss them. There's a little difference in here. Maybe ask the city nicely about amending the budget, getting more money. But I'm also thinking about, I think the word subsidizing is not the proper word. I always use an example, a renter versus a homeowner. Right now they're renter. They do not share our reserve funds. They have no equity in the organization, and therefore they do not really have a true voice, so to speak. And I think when they join, then they automatically part of our reserve and everything else. So it is really, because we still have some reserve funds. So that means the money may be a little bit, but we're talking about not a major amount. I think we should reach out to them and get them to get an RFA. Then they share the reserve, they share everything, and then they also have representative. So I would vote no on this.
I'd also like to comment and hope that additionally others vote no on the amended motion. It's not an arbitrary, we're going to cut a third, so magically a third does not go into Edmonds and doesn't benefit Edmonds. We're going to be cutting a third from the entire RFA, those who are paying in for this program. As we saw on the map of where our CRP program is benefiting, a large portion benefits Linwood and unincorporated areas of our community. I know that the expansion of the CRP program has been pushed off, potentially, may or may not happen in 2 months' time. But I think reducing this kind of a service, especially in the early parts of 2022, is detrimental. We know the mental health crisis through the holidays and post-holidays only increases. Less sunlight, more isolation because of weather. I think it would be a detriment to our entire organization to remove a third of the existing funding. Any Commissioner Metter, you had your hand up?
Yes, I will be voting no also. The reason is that this is a unilateral action, and even though I didn't hear that we've ever really talked directly to the cities, Malay Terrace and Briar and Edmonds, about our concerns. I think that it's a legitimate concern. I support that. But I think that we need to recognize that we want to work hand in glove with these cities and not just do something out of the blue or unilaterally. I think this needs to be addressed. The chief can address it with the cities, tell them that we're really uncomfortable with the situation and trying to resolve it. I fully recognize that it's an ongoing issue that needs to be resolved. But I don't think I want to send a message at this time that we're cutting the relationship on this particular program. So I can't support the motion. So.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, I have become a real big supporter of the CRP program in a sense that is something we need to do in our society here at the county and state level. And we need to kind of start over and say, okay, fire services, we're the ones that really are best suited to do this job. It's a really important job. So, and I seconded the motion and to support Jim, and I know it's not going to pass the amendment, but yeah, no, it's just also my longstanding attitude toward appeasement and subsidizing and the whole bit. That was a legacy that we inherited as new members, and so it's more of a protest vote, though I know the appeasement won't pass, but I mean the amendment won't pass. So anyway, the CRP program, yeah, it needs to be expanded. It's got to be done at the state, county, and our level. Thank you.
Commissioner Chan and Commissioner Burnett.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. I want to make sure the CRP was still in the pending. It's not weird. I'm not going to say I'm complete support or not a support, depending on the funding itself. But I see this motion is difficult because how do we cut the budget? Maybe I wasn't clarified. Maybe Commissioner Kennedy can address that. Does that mean we do not go into the Edmonds community, or we just stop at that thing, or how is that going to be budget? How would that work? I'm all for emphasizing. I think a lot of not just community, just think about the homeless people, right? So one day they could be in Edmond, then one day they're in Linwood. Does that mean when they move to Linwood, be homeless, we help them and not when they're in Edmonds? So I'm just kind of in my brain, I just, maybe Commissioner Kenny can clarify a little bit how that, but cutting the budget works.
Commissioner Kenny?
Commissioner Chin, we staff has not given us a precise breakdown, say for the last year, maybe last 2 years, of how much this service is provided into the contract cities. But it appears to be based upon the number of fire stations and the data that we got from 2013 forward to be approximately a third. In the absence of better data from staff, third is about right. And it ends in, the intention is to end this unpaid service, this subsidized service to the contract cities in the 2022 budget. So that's the intention.
So it means we do not go into it when if any call from Edmonds for that, we do not go in. Is that how it works?
Well, that would be my intention.
Okay.
Unless those cities are going to pay for it, because they're not going to pay for it in 2022, but they would like you to pay for it, Commissioner Chan.
Okay. All right.
Commissioner Burnett?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, there's a lot of interesting points here. I think that, you know, if you do stop, if we were able to do that, then potentially the service is available in certain areas of our, there's unintended consequences if you do stop in some of the other cities, I think, and that's one of the challenges here. Actually, you know, I certainly hope that Commission can get together and kind of think through this. I think that there's a big gift on the table, so to speak, to expand this and make this a even better and wind up saving us and our taxpayers' money. It does, you know, the whole subsidiary thing is just a conversation that, you know, hopefully we can get past that with the contracts going forward. But, you know, I think it's very short-sighted to kind of think through just a cut of this. And you know, I'd like to know what that even means if we were to do that, if this were to pass, but let's see what happens. You know, I certainly wouldn't want to see people laid off just because we wanted to make a point. So either way, at the end of the day, I hope that we can, or Commission can talk through this and see what makes sense long-term, because it's a good program and appreciate everybody doing it.
Any further discussion on the amended motion? I'll move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Kenny, Commissioner Lawrence, all opposed? Motion does not pass. So we're back to the original motion. Do we have a second on the original motion? Commissioner.
Well, point of clarification, sorry. I believe it was already seconded by Commissioner Burnett.
True. Sorry. Apologies. So any further discussion on the original motion? Commissioner Kenny?
Subject to my comments about motion about to amend about the community resource paramedic program, the overall budget, I think that the chief has put together, as I commented last week, the chief moved a long way in my direction, and I appreciate that. And I think overall, it is successful. So I am in support of the overall budget. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I believe for clarification, the final item is just to authorize the chair to sign the levy certification.
That's correct.
Motion to the chair to sign that levy certification. Is there a second on the motion? Commissioner Lawrence, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on in our agenda to item 9, our fire chief report with Chief Hobus.
Thank you, Chair Urban. Thank you, commissioners, staff, and meeting attendees for joining us tonight. For commissioners, if you could hear this over Zoom, if I was not on mute, that was a nice sigh of relief from me and staff. So I just want to say thank you for passing the budget, the resolutions, and authorizing the certification. I just want to thank staff for all the hard work and the commission for all the input in getting us to this time. And just wanted to make sure as I start my fire chief report, I want to point out this is Director Younglove's last budget. She joined Fire District 1 in 2009, and she will be very missed by her fire chief, her staff here, and our entire organization. So I want to thank you personally, Kathleen, for sticking around a little bit longer than you originally intended and bringing this last budget for 2022 home for RFA. So thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit, commissioners, about COVID-related statistics. Our state has reported an increase of 12,092 cases in the past week. We're now to a total of 8,990 deaths in our state, and that's an increase of 163. Narrowing in on our county, there's been an increase of 1,425 COVID cases just the past 7 days. We're now at 781 COVID-19 related deaths, and that's an increase of 12 in a week. Thinking about our hospitals, there are currently 54 patients admitted with COVID-19, with a pretty staggering almost 50% number of 25 of those requiring ventilators to breathe. So we're certainly having extreme COVID conditions, and people and their families are continuing to get sick. Mike Vermeulen will show the line graph that you're familiar with the 2-week variation of cases. We are now at 340 new cases per 100,000 people, and that's as of data yesterday. Our case count continues to hover in the mid 300s, and that's for the 5th week in a row. So as the holidays approach, please make it a priority to protect vulnerable friends and family in our community. Keep gathering small, wear a mask, stay home if you're feeling sick, and most importantly, get vaccinated against COVID if you haven't already. And if you're eligible for a booster, that'd be a great time to do that as well. Narrowing in on our South County Fire employee-related data, we currently have 1 employee off work due to quarantine precautions. Total employees with COVID-like symptoms on quarantine or isolation since the start of the pandemic is at 387. 104 of those were for post-vaccination symptomatic employees. We now stand at 40 employees who have tested positive for COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, with 7 of those positives potentially work-related. We remain 92% fully vaccinated with our uniformed employees. Mike Vermeulen will now be screen sharing our first watch graph, which shows the 7-day period since our last meeting through 4 p.m. today. And our call volume is up. The green is the expected, the blue is where we are at. And remember that red line is the 3-time standard deviation. A lot of this is weather related. As you know, it's been very rainy and had some very windy days. So we didn't have any occurrences of call volume exceeding 3-time standard deviation. But when we look at the other graphic that Michael is going to show about our call types and the pie chart you're familiar with, we had some unusual increase again, week over week. Remember last week I reported we had a 32% increase over this time in 2020. This week it was a 34% increase. We ran 676 incidents in the RFA in just 1 week. Thank you, Michael. And commissioners, we have now eclipsed 800. So we're at 801 confirmed COVID-19 positive patients we have transported to local area hospitals since January 21st of 2020. And I've been continuing to report on national data when firefighters lose their life due to COVID exposures. And there has been 1 more firefighter who has died in the past week due to COVID exposure at their workplace. I want to transition to 2 South County fire specific updates. And one is that we had a commercial fire, better described as an apartment fire, today at the Novella Apartments in the 16600 block of 48th Avenue West in Linwood. Fire was dispatched right about 11:15 this morning, contained to 1 unit of the building with no reports of civilian or fire suppression injuries. This is a 3-bedroom apartment, and those occupants have been displaced, and the unit above that had some smoke exposure was unoccupied. So residents are being received assistance from Support 7 and American Red Cross. No other occupants of the building were immediately displaced. Fire continues to be under investigation, and the cause is currently listed as undetermined. And commissioners, I know you've been notified that South County Fire retired Assistant Chief Kevin Weber asked me to share with the RFA the very sad news of the passing of his son, Philip Zweber, age 34, on Sunday, November 7th. A reminder that a celebration of life will be held on Thursday, November 18th at 11 a.m. at the Gilbertson Funeral Home in Stanwood. I also mentioned that there has been a GoFundMe account set up for Philip's 2 minor children, Kevin and Zoe Zweber, to hopefully support their future higher education goals. And with that, thank you for the opportunity to provide my fire chief report this evening. Staff would welcome any questions from the board. Thank you, Chief
Provost. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, Chief, on the people getting coming down with COVID-19 and going to the hospital, is there any data on whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated? Because I've been viewing the MedCram YouTube website. Is I think Chief Maxwell will attest, it's a great source. It's actually more for doctors, but there's a lot of evidence coming out. One, that the vaccine does not cause any problems for anybody, and the people who go in the hospital for the most part are unvaccinated, and almost like 100% of the people dying from it are unvaccinated. So anything from our county?
Commissioner Lawrence, I'll say yes, that is true, that most people that are getting hospitalized or dying from COVID are unvaccinated, although some people that acquire COVID have been vaccinated previously. And I'll let Chief Maxwell add a little bit more of where the county's at with data. Chief Maxwell or Chief Eastman?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add, Dr. Lawrence, but yeah, that's accurate, and they've been seeing that trend. So yeah, I would just have to concur with that. We, just in general, different parts of the world are starting to see the numbers rise again. They call that, seasonality with everything getting cold, the vaccine waning a little bit, and then people coming back together also in the cold weather. So we're watching that closely. Each time in Europe it starts to rise, we seem to be about a month behind them.
One other question, kind of COVID vaccine related. Now that there's the 5 to 11-year-old access, it seems like the initial rollouts are kind of through the school system. Is there any larger vaccine efforts underway through the county, or is it going to just be at typical providers in the schools?
So, Chair Irvin, there's a lot of dialogue happening. South County was approached by Edmonds, Muckletown, and Edmonds School District. There's been several meetings between our agency and those school districts. There's a meeting between Dr. Spitters, Sean Fredericks, who's the executive administrator for the health district, Jason Bierman, and the respective school districts. We had a follow-on meeting Monday. I was not there, but our team was there. And I will say on Thursday, we're having a very specific conversation with the school districts of how to help. Right now, there's limited vaccine. And right now the message from the health district's been go to the pharmacies and go to your local pediatricians or doctor's office to get the 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated. There's some challenges with that. Obviously, we saw the same challenges with the adult vaccinations that we needed to augment that. Normal channels, I would say. If you look at what's happening in King County, King County's got some school programs where they're vaccinating, and they got plans to vaccinate within the school systems themselves, as it's an easy place for folks that may not have the means to get to the pharmacies, their doctor's offices, to be able to do that. So we're working with the school districts. We'll continue to work through the EOC and public health. There's not a formalized plan yet. I know the school districts have contracted with Seattle traveling nurses to do 2 clinics. They did one on Sunday, one last Thursday. One of those was in Everett. The one on Sunday was at Meadowdale, which we supported with standby units. And there's a few more of those coming forward in the coming week. The challenge is SVN has limited capacity also, because they also do works for some of the other school districts in North King County. So there's efforts and planning being done. Nothing's been solidified yet, and but we hope to have something soon to ensure that when vaccine availability is readily available, that we can vaccinate that age group in Snohomish County as fast, safely, and effectively as we can. So more to come, but there's been a lot of dialogue. And I think South County will help the school districts in the planning effort, as several of the folks within our organization were leaders in the vaccination efforts countywide. So we're going to take that expertise and bring it to the school districts. But we are limited right now with the availability of just the vaccine. It's going to be a slow rollout, just like it was originally. So hopefully we'll have a solid plan. And when we do, we'll make sure the chief knows about it and chief can inform the board.
So it's the same exact vaccine. Is there a difference in the dosage? Is that the only variation?
Yeah, it's a lesser dosage. But the things are the same. They still need one dose followed on by a second dose 21 days later, just like the adults.
And it seems like there hasn't been a ton of just the general public, going out and getting vaccinated probably since, later in the summer. Has the supply just dried up to all of the doctor's offices and pharmacies where they just don't have anything to be able to start putting out there?
So I think there's still availability for the adult population, so the 16 and older. The vaccine coming for the kids is actually a different vial, and so it's a different concentration. It's the same medicine. It's just it's for that age group because it's a lesser dose. I think there's a couple things happening with regards to that. I think you still have adults going to the pharmacies to get their COVID vaccine with the anticipated and the potential of the mandates that we've been seeing at the federal level that depending on where they are in the court system become effective on the 4th of January or some thereabouts. And so you have folks that are going to the pharmacies to get vaccinated as the adults. They're the late arrivers because there's no mass sites anymore. You either go to your doctor's office or you go to the pharmacy.
Okay.
And so that's one of the other challenges you have with the school district kids is you've got that competition now where not only do you have the 5 to 11-year-old demographics that are available, but you also have the stragglers who are now going in, or the folks that decide they want the vaccine. I guess I don't want to put a negative spin on it. And they're going, and that's the venue they go. So the pharmacies are doing not only regular flu vaccines and shingles and all the other stuff they do, but we've added, the ones that have decided they want to get the COVID vaccine in the adult age groups. And then you've got this new demographic of our youngsters from 5 to 11 needing to go there too. And there's only so many lanes in that road. And they're over full right now. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for that info. Great. Chief.
Yeah, Chair and Commissioners, I would just try to put into context when we had our initial discussions with leadership from the Edmonds, Everett, and Mukilteo school districts, the combined population of 5 to 11-year-olds is over 40,000 and almost closer to 50,000 students. And even the Edmonds school district, I believe, 25 potential educational facilities. And the original allocation that was Seattle Traveling Nurses would be 2,200 doses, and you got to split that in half. So you're talking about just covering 1,100 students of that population. So that's where they're struggling with. So it's going to be a process.
Yeah. Commissioner Urban, if I could just add, since we're discussing it, there's a lot of concern in the US and Europe about they're calling it a twin pandemic. And so I'd really encourage everyone to also get their flu shot. It's completely safe to get them at the same time. And they're seeing actually about 25% less kids getting a flu shot this year. So we're all focused on COVID, but remember to get your flu shot.
Should hire some bartenders to just make a cocktail for us all. shake it all up. Any further questions for Chief Commissioner Kenny?
Chief, I may just have not heard you, but what is our current fully vaccinated rate amongst our uniformed employees?
92%, sir.
So that's unchanged from our last meeting.
Unchanged. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments before we move forward? All right, thank you, Chief. Moving on to our union report with Pat Moore from the Local 1828.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chief, and staff. Thank you for having me here tonight. Tonight's union report, it's going to be short, but I'm happy to report to you that the recently tentatively agreed upon Deputy Chief collective bargaining agreement was voted on by the Deputy Chief unit last Friday. I'm happy to report that they unanimously approved their ratification of that contract. So thank you to the staff and the board for working with the union collaboratively on that. Moving forward, we're obviously eager to begin work with the board and the staff to begin bargaining the 1828 main body contract that's currently expired. So we are looking forward to that. Outside of that, Commissioners, that'll conclude my union report for tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you for being here. Any questions, comments? We're letting you off easy.
All right,
thank you. Moving on to new business 11A, Commissioner District 4 appointment process and timeline for discussion with Ms. Blankenship.
Good evening. As you all know, elections happened recently, and based on these elections, we have Commissioner Chan moving into a different position, which will open up the position 4 position, which needs to be filled by appointment. Commissioner Burnett was appointed. It's a similar process that some of you will remember, where we sought individuals from the public. In Commissioner Burnett's case, we had an at-large position. In this particular situation, we will be needing to select an individual who resides in District 4 specifically. So I presented previous information that I had put together for the last appointment for your review and discussion tonight, so that we could have a little bit of a head start on process and some of the questions on the application for your review, to see if any of those were still applicable and how you would like to proceed.
And we will be pulling from a little bit slightly different District 4 now that we've passed our redistricting, which has expanded that area slightly. So, yes, Ms. Blankenship, you were kind of have to throw in here kind of a rough timeline and outline of kind of the process we need to go through. It needs to be complete within 90 days. And is that 90 days once Commissioner Chan vacates his District 4 seat?
Once the election is certified.
Once it's certified?
Essentially the same, yes.
Although Commissioner Chan doesn't technically vacate his seat until the end of December, but it is still upon the certification?
No, he vacates his seat because he will be read his oath for the, because once the election is certified, Commissioner Burnett is no longer in his position. Commissioner Chan.
But Commissioner Burnett's seat is being filled by either Maya or Derek.
No.
Is it opposite? Okay.
Yes.
So then we need to, essentially, November 23rd is our start of the 90-day window. And there's no requirement that the call for applications needs to be open for a certain length of time. So we just kind of need to have a discussion, figure out what those timelines should be, so that Ms. Blankenship can start doing the advertising and get the applications out there and start receiving them. Any suggestions, discussion on kind of a rough timeline when we would like to have applications in, be able to do interviews? I know some of the commissioners have gone through this process in the past, and definitely like to hear your input on past processes and if there's any improvements or things we'd like to keep the same. Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, I think it's really important because this gives us a chance to really, I think it's really important to find a very kind of qualified commissioner that is really engaged. And also, we also can, I know we keep talking about what we want to know, what we want the people that we like to fit the profile. So I think we should have a discussion then, but I think in the meantime though, we do want to start advertising, which is really important. That's what we did last time. We brought advertising a newspaper and that type of thing, so that people are aware of it. I think that's the most important part. Especially we have to emphasize it, we have to put our map on the District 4 there, but still I think they should be able to call Melissa to verify, are they really qualified or not. My ideal candidates, or if we can have discussion there, there's someone that really committed to it and basically really interested into the board meeting, and also look at the background. Have they been board experience that will help profit or nonprofit? And also, do they really know the role? So when the questions in there, I think a lot of time, commissioner may not really realize what the role is. To me, the role is governing. That means you really have an independent, critical thinking, and do not afraid to ask a question and not just, well, whatever the chief said, because the chief is reporting to us. The commissioner need to give direction to the whole organization and not just, the organization is bigger than what the chief is, and chief is really executing what the directions of the whole organization. So we got to be, I don't know when we'll have some kind of discussion, maybe in the first meeting in December, that type of thing. What profile do we all agree on? What type of people that we're looking for?
Commissioner Burnett?
I can tell you, just kind of going through the experience a couple of years ago, it was incredible. It's funny how I did find out was through word of mouth at an HOA meeting. So someone was using the conference room at one of the fire stations, which I don't know. Are we doing that right now? Is that still off to the public right now? Yeah. So it's a, especially because, and I happen to be in District 4, so it's such a, I'm not going to say a small district. It's very a niche thing. So what I did appreciate as a candidate was the interview, the candid interview, and we did meet each other. There was 2 or 3 of us that were kind of looking at it at that time, and unfortunately not being in person is another hindrance to that, but just kind of the feeling around it. So is one thing. I certainly, I hope that folks, we can figure out how to reach out in this case, because the options are just so limited. So 90-day windows is not very good. So as a candidate, I appreciated all that touch at first. And Commissioner Kenny, I know you were chair at the time. So when you kind of laid the rope through, that was very good as well. So hopefully when you do find the right person, you and Greg can kind of talk about how that was. So just some experience things along the way. So thank you.
Commissioner Kenny?
So my suggestion is that we open the advertising. All the things that Ms. Blankenship has in the materials all sounds good. My suggestion is we open the advertising at December 1st to get around the Thanksgiving Day holiday and give Ms. Blankenship a chance to put together the materials. Run that through approximately Tuesday, January 4th. That's our first meeting of January. Close the application approximately then, so that Ms. Blankenship can put together the application materials, which in the past have included like you know, a cover letter, maybe a resume, answering a short questionnaire, so we have some information so that she can then get that to us by the meeting packet that comes out on Friday, January 7th, so we can review it. And then on our work session on January 11th, then the board can talk about the applications that we've received, and then decide how many of those, you know, if only one person applies, we'll only need one interview. But, you know, we've been fortunate more recently to have quite a few applications. So we may need to cut that down to a reasonable number to interview 4 or 5, so that we could have that discussion, having reviewed the materials on January 11th, make the cut down there to the 4 or 5, and then have the interviews at the regular meeting on January 18th. That way we can put in the materials that anybody that applies knows they need to clear their calendar for the evening of January 18th to do their, if we're still on Zoom, do their Zoom interview with us that night, so that they know ahead of time and are not surprised. The other potential advantage to running it that long is that, well, we need to get around the holidays. And it also allows new Commissioner Maya Oholeto the opportunity to be part of that process, as she will be taking, she should be here for the first meeting of January on the 4th. So that will be good. Then we'll have another commissioner to assist in that process. But I do think that we want to kind of get to it. We want to fill the seat. That would get it filled by the end of our last regular meeting of January. So that I feel like we leave the application open for a little more than a month. That's good. Get around the holidays. But, you know, we also need to kind of move it along. And then we'd have a new commissioner by that, you know, taking oath of office, most likely, hopefully by that first meeting of February, Tuesday, February 1st. So in my mind, that's kind of a timeline that I see that could work to get us to a new commissioner for the first meeting of February. But we will need to spend some time in January working on this. And hopefully we'll have good candidates that we can select from. And I don't really have any other comments about the material. Sorry, I'm just looking at them that Ms. Blankenship sent. I think all of those are good, and we need to, you know, do what we can to advertise in different ways to get the word out there. Oh, I know the one thing I was going to mention. I am actually not sure that the new District 4 map takes effect for this appointed person. I think that this doesn't take effect until the 2023 election, so that whoever applies can live in the old District 4. We might want to have Ms. Blankenship talk with our attorney, Rich Davis, about the difference between this old map that I think is in effect at the time we do the appointment and the new map coming in 2023. And if somebody applies who's in the difference between the two, just make sure we're all on the same page legally about what that might mean. And because it'd be nice to avoid putting out 2 maps with this application process, because that will get confusing. But on the other hand, I don't think we can legally exclude somebody who's currently in District 4, but won't be in District 4 in 2023 from applying and being appointed. I think the answer is, if that happens, they keep their seat regardless of the redistricting. They would have to be in the district at the next election in November of 2023, but they could serve for that, you know, roughly 2-year period of time. But I can't say that for sure. That's where I think Rich Davis, so we need a little advice from Rich Davis to kind of sort that out. But it'd be nice not to put out 2 maps and talk about differences between them, because that'll get confusing to the average person on the street who's thinking about applying. But I'm hopeful that we can get some good candidates. I just think we need enough time here at the holidays, because people will be, you know, rightly thinking of other things at the holidays. So we want to give plenty of time for people to put together an application and send it in. Thanks.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, Commissioner Burnett, you live in District 4, right? So, I mean, you'd have the inside track.
You know, I have to do some thinking and searching on that, but certainly would like to see others apply as well, just to kind of make sure that, you know, there's not just a burning passion. I mean, I do have a passion around it, obviously, but yeah, let's see how it kind of plays and see if I can come to those terms.
Well, yeah, you might have a few votes here.
Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I want to actually we do need to clarify a little bit too. Also, as Richard Davis, so it's 90 days appointment, right? So we can actually up to February 28, 29 appointed. The person may not be necessary to be, he or she cannot, don't need necessary to be immediately to be take the position, right? Take the seat, right? I think that's the questions I have. And I think one more important part is that we want to make sure that what I'm saying is flexible a little bit. If we do not get only one application and we don't think the person is good, I think we should extending the deadline for open up more to do it because of the holidays and everything else. But I think more importantly that the person need to be, because it's only 2 years, we would like the person to be committed, to run for re-election again. That's what we did last time, because it is a lot of investment to their candidates for the 2 years experience. We don't want someone just come in here and do 2 years and then, I mean, that to me, there's a lot of investment for new candidates.
Commissioner Burnett.
I felt that 6 years was an investment, Commissioner Chan. So we could have coffee over that discussion, but certainly my question is the 90 days, is that an RCW or is that a bylaw kind of thing? Because if it's an RCW, okay, that's what I thought. So
I think, yeah.
If that's the case, if there's something that we wanted to do, I'd be willing to try to help extend that to make sure that we don't lose that. I don't know if that's something we can talk about right here, but I would certainly, I'm passionate and committed. I just, much like other commissioners that ran for an at-large spot, I don't like to be grounded to a specific area for 6 more years. So.
Yeah, I think what RCW basically, if we do not passing, I think the county will appoint it for us. And of course, we do not want the county appointed to us. I think that's my understanding. Melissa, do you know anything about that or?
That's correct.
Okay. So automatically, can we negotiate a little bit? Or I don't know what that is. Okay.
Any further discussion on this topic? I do like Commissioner Kenny's suggestions of opening the call for nominations December 1st and the utilizing our 3 January meetings in order to kind of sort through the process and find somebody that we can seat in February. The earlier we can seat somebody, the faster they'll be able to acclimate and start becoming part of the process. And I think it's District 4 is not a massive area. And I'm sure that each of us individually can, think of anybody that we know in the area that has connections, and because we're asking somebody to commit a lot of time. This is not a high paying job, as Commissioner Lawrence will tell you, and we want to find somebody that's willing to dedicate that time and thoughtfulness in making sure that our fire service is taken care of and can move forward and protect the citizens. So I'd advocate for that timeline. I know the difficulty is that we don't have another meeting until after the December 1st suggestion, as Commissioner Kenny suggested. But I think it's something that we could have Melissa work on and get posted, because that'll come out to us and we'll assist in getting that spread out there. Of course, we'll do the typical paid, Herald and other media publications, as well as signs at our stations, things like that. So I think we can work hard at this and get the word out there, and hopefully get some more than one person to apply. And if we have none, we'll have to nudge Commissioner Burnett to pass his resume back over. Does that sound good for everybody? Great. All right. Moving on to item 12, committee updates. Our Capital Facilities Committee, Commissioner Kenny.
No update.
Great. Intergovernmental, Commissioner Metter.
Yeah, we've, I think the chief needs to quickly brief the board on our letter to the city of Edmonds concerning our negotiations. And so, Chief, I want you to handle this one. I know we talked about in our intergovernmental meeting about how to proceed, and I think you did well, but at the same time, I think it has to be briefed. The board needs to be briefed on this. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Metter and Commissioners. I know you've received a copy of the letter that was sent to the City of Edmonds to Mayor Mike Nelson. I know that letter has been received and confirmed that. As of this time, I have not received a response yet from Mayor Nelson on that item. I did do a little research to see if it had been placed on an agenda at this point, and I did not see anything, but it's possible that that item could be considered in obviously in an executive session by the city. And that's all I have to report at this time. I'll be reaching out to Mayor Nelson tomorrow if he does not reach out to me, and have a conversation with him and try to get an update on what the status of that letter is and what response might be coming to the RFA. Thank you.
I was going to say, as a reminder, we have the Intergovernmental has a meeting on Wednesday at 5:30.
Yes, that's correct.
So just as a reminder for Commissioner Teoflack and Commissioner Metter. Moving on to our Snow 911, Commissioner Chan.
Yes, we're going to have a meeting on Thursday. So anyone want to give me some input? That would be it. I didn't. You at the meeting. You have something going on? Something like that?
I have the Commissioners, as I mentioned previously, we're in the recruitment process for our 2022-1. Right. So I'll be doing interviews, but another alternate could step up if needed if your counterparts, Commissioner Chan, as primary delegates aren't there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to Commissioner comments. I'd like to start and first thank PIO Himes for her assistance in drafting together what I'm going to read out here. So tonight, I want to thank Commissioner Burnett for his service. As you're aware, because he was appointed to serve on the unexpired term, his tenure will be up with us on November 23rd when the elections are certified. Commissioner Burnett was appointed to the board in July of 2019. Even though his tenure is brief, it was impactful. Commissioner Burnett has played a key role in decisions that will shape our fire service for many years to come. This includes the selection of our fire chief, as well as the successful passage of the benefit charge to provide more equitable and sustainable funding for our emergency services. We also want to thank Commissioner Burnett for sharing his insights on the future of fire service in our area as a member of our Capital Facilities Planning Committee, and for fostering and building regional partnerships as a member of the City of Mountain Lake Terrace Committee. We also appreciate and recognize the extra time, effort, and thoughtful input Commissioner Burnett has provided during the past year as a member of our Chief Financial Officer Selection Committee. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Commissioner Burnett's helped our board and Regional Fire Authority navigate many new challenges, supporting our firefighters and staff to safely meet the emergency needs of the people we serve. Thank you to Commissioner Burnett for your leadership and support through these pivotal moments. We're grateful for your willingness to serve and for all that you've done for the fire service and the people of South Snohomish County.
Thank you.
And of course, your ceremonial plaque is in the mail sometime at the end of the year. Something you can hang on the wall back behind you there. And
I need something on the wall.
it will be made out of bird seed so that your parrot can enjoy it as well.
Great.
That's true.
Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, I think in the spirit of next week will be a Thanksgiving, so I have many things to thank for. I think first of all, I want to thank the staff. This has been a difficult year. especially the whole budget process and everything else. And I appreciate your hard work. And I know that I notice every single penny you guys move. So it is great. But I'll also thank my Commissioner Matter, because we still have a three more meeting to making all the accolades about you, but it's that you're leaving. And
a lot of tears there.
A lot of tears there. And you and I not the same way all the time, but yet we were able to. I still remember one meeting, you get so mad you walk out of it. But then the next day we go and see a basketball game together. So we don't really hold grudges against each other. And also that, and we're able to communicate. Somehow you and I always sit next to each other in the meeting, and that's how we get into trouble. So, ooh, that's a thing. I want to also thank Commissioner Burnett for that kind of step up and fill out the role of Commissioner Schrock. Actually, Commissioner Schrock was appointed, and then later on he ran for re-election. So, and he definitely has. It's a tradition on that seat. It's a lot of great things that are happening. And then, of course, I want to thank Kathleen. My God, it seems like only yesterday Commissioner and I were on the committee, and also with Mike Bailey, to interview you. My gosh, that's how long? 2010, something like that, or before the Edmonds?
2009.
2009, yeah, before the Edmonds merger, yeah. So my God, just like, well, I know that you're going to have a car and drive cross country or something like that.
Hopefully. You're not leaving yet.
Okay, but I really appreciate that, especially go through the recession year. That was difficult years. And then I guess I have to thank the voter. First of all, my opponent hasn't conceded the position yet, and it hasn't been certified. Still, can be something changed. But I really thank the voters that for five elections they have agreed with me the basic philosophy that I go and read back my first flyer. I hasn't really changed, the same message, and they echo that, and I really appreciate, especially overwhelmingly support me. I would say, I guess, say to the voter, I would dedicate my next 6 years to really get the two tasks I said in my candidate statement. I will try to get that done. So, and then just happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Kenny.
Thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Burnett for his service on the board over these years, and it involves a lot of time, and so I just appreciate all of the work that you've done, the effort you put in, and also thank your family for allowing you to spend this time with us, because this time comes out of family time, and I know it's hard, and it's challenging, and I appreciate the time you spent with us and helping make forge decisions and helping us chart a path forward. So thank you for your work. I also want to thank Kathleen Younglove. So many budgets, so many battles, so many. It just seems like it's been a long time. So it's been a pleasure, Kathleen, working with you. We haven't always agreed on everything, but we just keep trudging forward and finding a path that seems to work. So that's great. And I wish you the best in retirement. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I'm going to miss having you here. You may not miss being at our Tuesday night meetings, but I'll miss having you here and your good work. So I appreciate all you've done for us, helping to keep us on the straight and narrow in the financial world over these many years. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate your work.
Commissioner Burnett.
All right. So hey, everybody, thank you for all the kind words. I do appreciate that. It's my last meeting and I don't think it's really sunk in yet. And, last official meeting, put it that way. I might still be in the audience lurking, may throw in a resume or two at some point. I have some searching to do, and the recognition of the time that it takes, for the family, plus the full and a half time job. It's tough, but first of all, I do want to thank a couple of the folks who've made this possible. And to start with, I'd like to thank the taxpayers, of course. That's who we're here to serve, and the community that we do serve. And so, but then I'd also like to thank each and every one of the professionals within this organization. So there's been a lot of things that have happened over 2 years, and 2 years is not a long time in a retrospect of things, but this has been a crazy 2 years. I can't believe that I probably haven't met in person in a long time. Put it that way. That's insane when you come back and think through it. And I don't know what it was like to meet in person anymore. It seems so. It's certainly been a wild ride, and we've still accomplished quite a bit. It hasn't always been pretty. I will say that. In fact, sometimes it's ugly, but usually we do, and always we do find the right way. And I appreciate everything that everybody does to help the board make the decisions that we have to make. Last, I would like to thank all the peers on the board, because I joined this, was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to join because of what difference this organization can make to our community. And I certainly may only regret not staying, whether it was by choice or not. And I have, like I say, I have some searching to do as far as that goes. Commissioner Chan, you make it hard because you were why weren't you in District 5? So it's tough that you're in District 4 moving over into the at-large, because it was easy for me to make the decision not to put out election material. So but thank you everyone for all the positive words and all the things that we've accomplished, and I'm looking forward to watching the organization continue to progress over time. So it's really been a pleasure, and continue to serve our community the way that you do, because I hope that I'm never a customer, but if I am, I know I'm in the best hands. So thanks a lot.
Any additional commissioner comments before we move on?
Well, all I can say is that it's really interesting to watch a career path of an entry-level commissioner all the way through the years until his retirement. And that is really something to be able to say. I watched the entry in his first meeting, and then I was there when he retired. And just kidding with you, I enjoyed working with you, Drew, and it was definitely, like I've always said, at this point, the best board that I've ever served on. So, and it obviously includes you as a vital part of that. So, anyway, that's all.
This gray hair, I named Bob. No, I'm kidding.
All righty, we're gonna move on and go ahead and take our 10-minute break, and we'll return in an executive session for collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 4230-144. We'll call that for 20 minutes. We don't plan to take action following that. Is that correct, Chief?
The board's discretion that you may want to come back and take action. So I'll leave that open, so board's discretion.
All right, we'll leave it open for the potential to return for action. So go ahead and close out on this meeting and return in the executive session link in your email by 8:30. Thank you.
The executive session has been extended for 5 minutes. The November 16th regular meeting of the South County Fire Board of Commissioners has been adjourned.